Something I've noticed about really smart women, like my friends that are the high achievers and myself, is that we stay too long. We stay too long in relationships, too long in jobs, too long in friendships, too long trying to make something work after our nervous system already knows that it's wrong, after we've already received confirmation from God that this just is not aligned. And honestly, this is to protect us. It's our survival instincts because humans are not rational decision makers. We become emotionally attached to what we've invested in. There's actually a concept in behavioral economics called the sunk cost fallacy, and it explains why people keep investing in things that are already hurting them, simply because they've invested so much already. And I think high achieving women are especially vulnerable to this because when you're used to being competent, you think, if I just work harder, communicate better, love harder, be more disciplined, be more patient, that I can fix this. But sometimes emotional regulation is not staying calm enough to tolerate dysfunction. Sometimes emotional regulation is having enough self trust to leave. And that's what we're going to be talking about today because whether you are looking at your relationship or a business, mostly I talk about business on here, but they all kind of are interconnected. If you see yourself in this, that's what we're going to go over today, just why this is and how you can fix it or how I fixed it. Before we get into this though, I'm going to put my website down in the description. I have a bunch of free resources on there for, upskilling. It's mostly like marketing business stuff. So if you're watching this for the business side of things, I've got a new course dropping soon. It's going to be completely free. And yeah, so if you could go check that out if you're interested, would love that. Also would love it if you would like and subscribe to this video if you like this sort of content. That's the only way I really know what to make, especially since I'm new, since I'm starting out. So let's get into part one. So why high achievers stay too long? So before I went into marketing and started my own business, I was a behavioral design consultant, which is basically applied behavioral economics into marketing and healthcare change. And then I worked for a 3-time New York Times bestselling author, a Duke professor of behavioral economics and psychology. Learned so much over those few years. And so the things I want to bring to your attention if you're a high achiever like me is, first of all, that sunk cost fallacy that I was talking about. There's also, it's called the Ben Franklin effect, which is really similar. We as women, like, we fall in love or we tend to value things that value us. We are reciprocal by nature. And I'm sure if you're watching this video, you realize that men in particular are not the same. There are some, narcissistic women out there as well who will take advantage of you. But just know that the more that you invest something, it's not necessarily going to love you back. Maybe it will if it's like it's a female friendship. I found those to be quite reciprocal. But you have to know if you're around like a la circle of flower girls or if you're in a tank of sharks, okay? So just know that the more that you invest in something, especially if you're undervaluing your time or undervaluing what that investment of time is giving back to you, then that person might not be like, oh, that's valuable. They might the first time, but then after a while, they're going to write you off and you're going to stay because you're already so invested in this process. The other thing which I talk about a lot is like trauma and reward loops. So our brain works in patterns, a lot of it is so subconscious, but you have to separate yourself from the pattern itself. And that's really hard because you have to think, why do we perform certain behaviors? Because it's like you can have something that's really destructive, but there's a reason that you're doing it, right? And normally it's because it gives you something, even if it's intermittent, even if sometimes it has a really bad consequence. If we get what we want, like 1 out of 10 times of doing something that's destructive, we probably will continue to be in that trauma loop until we shift our identity. So this is the next point as well. We have identity attachment. A lot of times we see those patterns as our identity. So for example, if you identify as an alcoholic, really what that is a pattern in having too much alcohol. Yet if you identify as not an alcoholic, you probably wouldn't really be that interested in alcohol or overindulging in alcohol. So it just goes to say, like, the way that you identify shapes so much of your patterns and what you even ask and what you do. So if you're able to reform your identity, it might make your trauma reward loops easier to repattern. And no matter where you are in your journey, like the older we get, the harder it is to change our patterns because there's something called neuroplasticity, but it's always possible. The last thing I want to say is fear of uncertainty. So those of you sitting here where you're stuck in something, either like a bad job, a bad relationship, bad client, whatever it is, you are afraid of what's next. You're afraid if you don't have that income. You're afraid if you don't have that person, how will you start over? How will you have kids? How will you pay your next rent check? And while there is like the reality of like needing to survive, right? What that shows me is that you probably don't have enough trust in God, and that you don't really want to get out of this situation because you haven't built something on the side, or you haven't taken that leap to make sure that it would be okay if you were to lose this thing. Like for me, I know they say that you should be super singular focused if you want something to grow big. That's not necessarily like aligned with me. I'm very big on safety and security. So I have created that for myself by having like multiple streams of income, right? Where if one thing hit the fan, if shit hits the fan, I swear, so I'll just swear on here. If shit hits the fan, like I will be okay, right? Because I have like two parts of my business. And I think whatever situation you're in, if you really want to get out of it bad enough, you would. So I would start taking action towards that, or else like, I guess, stay stuck in it and suck it up. Personal examples. So like some of my personal examples, obviously, like I talk a lot about how I loaned like $20,000 to someone last year, kind of just relying on them instead of me. And it was really bad. Like I had to pay off all that debt. It was all on my personal credit. So that's one example. And that person promised to pay me so much. They even signed contracts, but I just kept delaying, and I didn't see any money coming back. Like, and I'd done that before as well with like clients, like where I didn't let them pay me for a really long amount of time just because I wanted the experience, or I thought it was going to come eventually. And I just overgave in those situations. And I still think that giving out energy, in the long run, you do get it back. But there has to come a point where like God is ready to teach you the lesson that you have to protect yourself too. Because you might get a great opportunity, but if you don't have enough energy to sustain it, if you don't know how to take care of yourself, you're not going to be able to steward that appropriately. So I used to confuse endurance with emotional maturity, and now I'm in a place of I'm more discerning. I realize how important protecting my own energy is, protecting myself, and it's made everything a lot better. I can't fully explain it unless you've gone through the journey yourself, but like what I'm talking about, it's not just actions, it's not just theories. It's like a deep spiritual inner journey that you have to go through. If you want to talk to me about it, if you want some friends on it, like I do have paid calls. I shouldn't feel bad that they're paid because energy isn't free, right? But I do have paid calls because I have to protect my time, right? So if you do want to talk about how I started in that journey, like I would love that. I love talking to people about this stuff all the time. I'm so passionate about it. If not, I'm going to continue to make so much free content. And if you want to know more about like how I went on the more spiritual journey to detach from outcomes, all that sort of stuff, like definitely I'll make a video about that. Just let me know in the comments if you want that. But yeah, it's huge to be able to be discerning and to not nag and not be that like angry rat in the corner and just be able to walk away. So part 2 is emotional regulation versus emotional suppression. So I wanted to say this because I used to be someone where I was a lot more reactive, like where things would trigger me a lot more. I feel like I still have emotions, but I'm able to like store them. I'm like, they're there. I can see that they're there. I acknowledge that they're there. Hi, lady. But they don't affect how I act nearly as much. Like I am way more in line of like the person that I want to be, and I feel very different energetically. And I think that there's like a very common problem with smart people where we over intellectualize emotions, or being the bigger person, or tolerating discomfort, or overriding intuition. And I think a lot of this really led me personally to a lot of cortisol, to burnout. Like I'll stand up because I used to weigh like 55 pounds more than I do right now, right? I used to wake up like stupid early. I would work out so much. Like I would eat so clean. but my body was so stressed out. My nervous system hated me. I was in chronic stress. And now I feel like I kind of just eat whatever. I try to just like keep my sleep good, but I really protect my energy. And that's been so huge for me. And so if you're struggling with like not being able to be emotionally regulated, right? Because we're taught how to tolerate discomfort, but to the point where it's like you're saying yes to everything and then all of a sudden you snap. Like that was me. I got to the point where I was just like I was doing the most. I was doing way too much. And it doesn't need to be that way. I just started saying no to more shit. I set my goals and everything that wasn't that, I just started being like, fuck it, not for me. I still have problems with this a little bit, by the way. Like, I still love doing things for people. I still love doing like favors. I still love doing like different things that I think do fill me up. But I know a lot better, like my sense of like, I'm burned out. I don't want to do this. And I try not to overcommit myself because I also still believe in like, if you said you were going to do it, you probably got to follow through on it no matter how you feel, unless you're like really sick or something's going on or someone does something like really bad. But most of the time, if you say you're going to do something, like it's got to get done. And so I try to be very careful about like actually committing to things that are outside of like my actual like pre-decided this is what I want to do. And everything else, I'm like, maybe I'm going to try my best. I actually just made that mistake today, though. I promised I would be at a lunch, and then it came to the lunch, and I was like, no, I don't want to go. But it was a big group, so it's okay. But normally, I still felt guilt. I was like, I should have gone, and I think if you commit to something, you should go. But try to be more discerning about like what you say yes to. Make sure it fits in line with your goals first. Like, the thing with me now is I plan. Before, I didn't plan. So everything was like reactive. It was like if it was coming to me, I was going to do it. But not because it was a priority or an important task, but because I felt needed. I got like some sort of validation, some sort of praise out of that. And that was just not healthy for me. That was not good for me. And for you as well, like you don't want to be doing that. Like you don't want to be the person who's like everyone's Google, so to say. Like I think that will exhaust you and you're not even helping these people. Like I wasn't helping these people. You could just tell them to go to Google and then they'll be able to go to Google from now on. They'll be able to use AI. You know, there are so many options that aren't you, that aren't me, right? But that might make you feel replaceable. And if you can't handle that, then you've got some inner work to do, because if you're able to teach people, then you kind of become irreplaceable. But the whole point is kind of just keeping self-respect. And so if you're just doing things because other people want you to, you're going to have a tough time with that. That's the point of that. So next, part 3 is the psychology of why leaving so hard. I'm reading from my notes. So again, back to like the uncertainty avoidance. You're afraid of what comes next. You're afraid of losing something. There's this thing called loss aversion where we are a lot like more inclined to not lose something than we are to gain something. There's attachment theory as well. Like if you're insecure, you're probably going to have like, if you're a woman, most likely anxious attachment. It just comes from the same fear of like being abandoned or something else. But like with anxious attachment, you kind of tend to overfunction in things, and it is manipulative at the end of the day. Like that's part of the problem with overdoing as well. It is manipulative. You're hoping to get something back from it. Whereas like if you can regulate yourself and then give from a place of wholeness, then it'll be a lot more pure and you'll be a lot more regulated, and it'll just be like better for everyone. So this doing isn't actually helping everyone. It's not helping you. It's not helping them, because if you snap back at them later, they're gonna be like, well, I wish you never even freaking did it. So there you go. Attachment theory, identity collapse. So like if you leave someone and you've identified with being their wife or their girlfriend, like your identity you have to figure out who you are after that. That's why like if you're in a relationship, try to keep your own hobbies, try to do things, try not to lose your own life, try not to lose your friends. If your life is like one piece of work, then you might have an identity tied to that. But there's no shame in starting over. There's no shame in having new identities. Like part of the world that we are in today, like with AI, with things shifting so fast, people are losing their jobs all the time. Like if you can stay adaptable, if you can gain skills that AI can't replace, if you are just able to keep on moving and learning and growing, I think that that's kind of like where the market is shifting. Like, unless you want to do a blue collar job, which my husband does that, I think I'm like, should have done that, but can't, not very strong. But if like you want to work at home, if you want to be able to make money like with your kids at home, which is like my personal goal, which is why I said that, like, you have to be adaptable. You have to learn sales. You have to learn marketing. You have to learn AI. Things are going to be changing all the time. And it's just how it is. And you might have that fear of starting over, but I don't know how to say don't, but like maybe just trust in what's next. Like, your body can feel it, and it's going to be hard. I'm not saying it's not going to be hard. When I started my business, it was really hard. I really struggled, but now I wouldn't trade where I'm at. Like, this is where I wanted to be, and it feels really good to know where I'm at, to know how far I have to go, and just to realize like all the things that I've gained in the process of going for what I really want. And if that's something that you feel a little bit jealous of, like that you wish that you had what you really wanted, I would ask if you're actually willing to sacrifice what it takes to get there. Like, I had to leave a lot of things behind, right? And that's okay. And I'm having to leave more things behind right now, like as we speak. And that's just a part of it. It's kind of a lonely journey, but it's very fulfilling. It's very, very fulfilling. I think I want to get into some of the things that I left behind, because when I started my business, like, I just broken up with like my boyfriend, and he cheated on me with some girl in Florida. I was living over in London. So that was the first thing I left behind. Like, I think if you're watching this and you just had a major life shift, you just had a breakup, you just got fired, that's I feel like sometimes the universe gives us a push, right? So I just wanted to tie that in, because that's really what got me started as well. And then just also the idea that if I didn't start now, like, when would be a good time, right? Because I didn't have a husband, I don't have kids, and I was 23 or 24 or something like that, and I was like, there's no better time for me to start a business than right now, where I can totally and completely fall on my ass and fail, and it's gonna be fine, or I can keep going for a while. Because honestly, like, I know the media always tells us that we're so behind and that we should be billionaires by the time we're like 21, but no one really expects anything from you in your 20s. So it's all up to you and how hard you can work and how much that you can do to set yourself up. And if you fail, that's okay. Like, I think I've learned so much more from my failures, and they've led to my bigger successes. So just let that be what it is. So what actually changed for me, like I've mentioned before, it's more of an inner journey. I gained a lot more self-trust, have a lot stronger sense of what I don't want, stronger boundaries, way bigger alignment in my life. I say no to way more things that just don't feel aligned. I think my relationships, they're a lot more reciprocal. Like, I'm really happy with like the relationships that I do have in my life. And I just feel very safe within myself. And part of that was like God. Part of that was like, now I'm making enough money to sustain myself. And part of that as well is like, I did the work, like, to calm down. Like, if I'm gonna fight with someone, I'll just be like, can we come back tomorrow? I don't really care to like continue the conversation. Like, I'm a lot more regulated. Like, I can just chill. I don't have these like highs and lows. Like, it's really just, for the most part, pretty chill, and it feels really good. Like, because I used to be way more of a mess, I promise. I still experience like those emotions. They're just not as loud. They don't like cause me to act a certain way. And the older I get, the more I realize how productive peace is, how productive calmness is. And if you're able to stay regulated and be able to make your point, it makes a huge difference. If you're able to ask questions and not get defensive and agree and then ask a question, like, I just found so much power in not letting people have power over me. A huge thing for me as well was just building confidence within my own skills and letting the money follow that. And I think money as women is very important, just because you want to set yourself up to be self-sufficient. I think that's super important, because you need to set that up for yourself as a woman. And for a while there, I didn't have it. And I made decisions that I definitely shouldn't have, right? And by that, I just mean like, I just feel like I said yes to clients because I was desperate and that sort of stuff. And I worked for free for too long because I thought the payday was coming because I really needed it. It was this desperate energy, and people prey on that. The wrong people will prey on it. The right people will be turned off by it. It's just not a good place to be in. So build up your skills, build up your confidence. If you've got a job, I'm not saying quit your job like I did. Like, if I could do it over again, I'd start like a side hustle, wait till like a third of my income was replaced, and then quit my job. So I'm not saying quit your job. What I am saying is that move towards what you want, right? Like, that is huge. And move away from what you don't want if you don't know what it is that you actually want. Like, that was a much easier list for me to come up with when I thought about my life. Like, when I was like, what do I want? And I was like, I don't know. I have no idea what I want. I kind of knew, but then it would change. But then I was able to really figure out, like, this is what I don't want. And these beliefs that I hold as well, like, I'm always open to them changing. They change a lot. It's okay. It happens. But I stick with them for as long as it really aligns with me and my journey at that time. And I'll experiment and I'll fail, and so will you. And it's all okay. And I think smart women are exhausted because they're trying to emotionally regulate themselves into tolerating environments that were never healthy for them in the first place. So sometimes the most mature thing that you can do is stop trying to save something that's costing you yourself. Leave, go fail on your own, take the risk, do the thing, trust in God, and yeah, just get better every day. I'll see you next time.